What about amnesia, Chris? I mean, that's a thing that
Remember
fascinates
amnesia?
me. As you know, I had an amnestic loop out of nowhere when I was teaching for NLP Canada.
Oh, yeah.
Years ago. And I never got my head around this. I was going in and out of trance all week with the students. And in the lobby,
You were standing there, just standing in the
Toronto School
standery.
of Theology, standing in the standery, right next to the fireplace. Right, Derek would always lean there, and I always remember him.
And you said something to Keeler, right?
I was standing there, and Chris Keeler, the other trainer, excellent trainer. I just said to him out of the blue, "Where are the students?" This is the final day. I said, "Where are the students?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Where are the students?" He said, "They're in the classroom." I was totally surprised. I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "They're in the classroom." I said,
What are they
"But
doing?
I'm out here. What are they doing?" He said, "They're doing the exercise you just gave them to do." I thought he was dicking around like Jack the Round Dicker. So I went up to the door and carefully peeked in, thinking everybody had gone home.
And here they're all
doing the exercise. I had absolute amnesia for what had led me out into the hallway. And were we just talking about amnesia so much that it triggered it? I have no idea. I've never had that again. Thank God, because it's a sign of freaking Alzheimer's.
And did he
stroke.
say to you, "What else have you just forgotten?"
No, he didn't.
There you
Thank
go.
God. But when anyone is amnesic to something, when you ask them with meaning, what else have you just forgotten? I mean, it's fantastic.
It's a brilliant bind, because how can they remember something that they'd forgotten? So they have to go inside and check and wonder what they've forgotten, and they'll come up with nothing.
Yeah. And it's an awesome thing, because if you talk about hypnosis, it starts happening.
Yes.
If you talk about amnesia, people start forgetting. If you're using amnesia in your hypnotic work on having them forget rather than not remember. This is really, really interesting.
Forgetting is active.
Yes, forgetting is active, and not remembering is passive. So when you tell someone to forget something, and I used to say, and it's so easy to remember, to be certain to forget certain things. Haven't you? Yeah.
Nice. You put it in past tense at the end, haven't you?
And then you can say, remember amnesia?
Amnesia.
Amnesia is not forgetting. It's forgetting that you have forgotten anything. Pause. Like that. So all of these linguistic tools can be used to create amnestic loops. And I've never had that amnesia again like that. I'm hoping it never happens again, because it wasn't fun. It was really, really disconcerting. Have you ever had anything like that?
How would you know?
Shut up. Yeah, I've forgotten all the times it's happened. Now, remember, Paul Moyer.
I had a moment like that last week. I was driving home
in the drivery,
and I'm on a stretch of road, and realize I looked at my screen on my car. The Tesla has like iPad-sized screen, right? So I'm looking at the map, and I see where my car is, and I see where my house should be and all that. I just had this weird moment going, did I pass my house already?
Oh, weird.
And then I realized, oh no, I'm on the street leading up to my house. It was just weird, because I had gone off into space thinking mode there, and then looked at, did I pass my house? No.
You left your Tesla at Colonel Baskin's. Now I want to talk about, let me bring up a final point amnesia-wise here, because this is an interesting one. Paul Moyer, very good friend, him and his ex-wife, well, they were married then, they remarried other people, and they're all very happy and get along. Paul and his wife.
You walking outside? Is this the story?
No, when I kicked my wife by accident.
Oh, no, go ahead.
When I went to show how I could vault over.
No, I thought you were going to talk about the amnesia.
Oh, no, that was at Canada Blooms.
Okay, we'll come to that after.
All right, well, let's tell that one first.
Okay, sure.
Canada Blooms, a big garden show every spring in Toronto at National Exhibition Grounds, CNE Grounds. And it's nice. It's all the smell of spring, and you go in, there's all wonderful displays by landscape architects. And it's just a nice way of getting the groove of spring coming in when we sat through another godforsaken Canadian winter, which I don't mind. And so when we were there, Steve McGarvey, great NLP trainer, great hypnotist, he and I are walking through together. His wife, Natalie, and my wife are walking together behind us. And there's a guy coming towards us, and Steve's going, do something, do something, do something.
Do something weird.
So as the guy's approaching, just as he got near, I'm pretending to talk to Steve and am talking to him, and this man's head is approaching. And just as he got near, I sort of edged closer to him, stuck my face right in front of him, went, amnesia, like just right in his face, and kept walking. And Steve said, you gotta look. And I turned back. We're 50 feet away now. The guy's standing like this, just blinking back layers of trance. Now, if someone just gets in your face with no warning, they blank their face and say, amnesia.
It's going to be a bit weird.
It's going to flash past the critical faculty just because of the PGO spike. And do it on your friends or people you don't know. It's way, way funnier. Now, the keg example, though, was deliberately engineered. It wasn't a one-off thing. So Paul and his wife and his two kids, Jennifer and Caitlin, were there all having supper.
Oh, yeah.
And he's saying, do something. My friends would always say that, but I just don't do it, so they don't say it anymore. Not that I remember. Scary thing was amnesia. So we're in the restaurant. Paul said, do something. So as the waiter came over, we were talking to the waiter, and I start just having a discussion. And every time he'd come to our table, I'd be talking about forgetting things, this was the inchoate form where we were able to pay for the at the Dominion Hotel.
I forget what happened.
And I turned to him and said, forget it. Just forget the whole thing. This is what the guy's hearing every time he comes to our table.
Every time the waiter's coming by, he's hearing you,
and then he forgets to bring the
forgetting
water.
And amnesia.
And forget all about. So these are embedded commands that are going into his mind as though they're part of our conversation. He comes back, he's forgotten the water. He forgot the kids' French fries. He forgot something else. And he said, wow, I don't know what's wrong with my brain today. He said, every time I come to this table, I forget something. So it had become anchored after that. If you experiment with embedded commands about forgetting, not remembering, it dropped out of his mind. All of this stuff, and the people keep hearing it when they're in proximity to you, it will transfer to what they are currently doing. They're forced into your reality tunnel, and it's a blast to make people forget things.
Now, I did this exact thing after you told me that story. I thought it was hilarious. And I did this at a party many years ago and caused the waitress who was bringing drinks to start just screwing up and forgetting all kinds of orders and forgetting this person's beer and bringing this person the wrong kind of wine. I thought it was hilarious until afterwards I realized kind of dickish. So instead of doing this to wait staff, do this to your friends. You can just aim it at someone who's at your dinner party.
Sure. And this is a hypnosis that they won't know you're doing it. So they won't have any resistance. Oh, it's only you. Especially because you're the hypnotist, right? Just like we are.
Remember that time that you had a client, and I don't know if it was exactly the context anymore, but there was somebody who needed to be in the room because the woman spoke Russian, and there was a mother,
I know the case.
Someone else, and you set a special little fun project that caused the person to forget to make a phone call that they had to go out and make.
Well, that's back when I was doing therapy in the 1990s, and before I had my office, I used to make house calls. And they'd pay for it, but it was up near Humber College Rexdale campus. The woman was a professor of English. It was her mother who'd had a stroke. Her mother was Russian originally. Her English was okay, not great. Like my friend's grandmother from the Ukraine.
What do you mean Russian originally?
Born in Russia.
What do you mean originally?
Then became a Canadian citizen. You're not going to get me on that. But it's like my friend's mother-in-law is Ukrainian. In Winnipeg, there's a lot of Ukrainians.
Yes.
And it was his grandmother. And she had lived in Canada like 20 years. And still, her only English word was danger. And she'd bring hot food in and we'd go, danger, danger. It's just fantastic. Anyway, so this woman spoke Russian. And I have a couple of words. And so the PhD wife, it was her mother who had a stroke. And so she was in recovery from stroke. And they had a pegboard. She had to put these different things in to get the motion of her limbs back. Also, the Russian woman's husband was also going to be in the room. He was an anxiety bundle because he was so stressed out by his wife after the stroke. So the woman who was the PhD in English, she said, what time do you think we'll be done by? I said, oh, it won't take long at all. She said, oh, I'm going to phone IKEA at 1 p.m. We got a delivery I'm expecting. Okay. So I gave myself this multi-purpose task. Help the Russian woman with neuroplasticity so we can activate the other hemisphere of her brain to take over the task so we can see if we can bring back her motion and so on. Also, the second task was to calm the anxiety of her husband. And the third one, just for an add-on, was to make the PhD forget to call IKEA at 1 o'clock. And so I worked with the woman, the elderly Russian woman. First, I want to make sure she has only expressive aphasia. She can't speak properly, but she can understand words properly, which is receptive aphasia. And she had no receptive aphasia. I looked at the pegboard and I said, "Shtota devotchka," which means, what's that young woman? When she's about 80 years old. And so we're talking, she said to me in Russian, I recognized, she said, how do you speak Russian? Why do you speak Russian? I said, "Я тебя люблю," because I love you. I've used up all my Russian.
All your Russian's gone.
Well, almost. She said, "Spasiba, spasiba." I said, "Пожалуйста." She said, thank you. I said, "You're welcome." Now I've used it all up. I built a rapport with her, did the work, gave her metaphors of Manhattan Island and bridges, and one is down and the traffic can go the other way. The woman went on to recover substantially. At this time, I'm saying, and you don't need to be anxious at all. You feel good. The anxiety's gone. Talking to her, but marking it out to the husband. I see his anxiety is lifting, and then said, and one can forget completely. One can easily forget stuff. One does not need 1 o'clock, 1 o'clock. to
Yeah,
forget.
marking out
And
one.
so I
yeah.
stayed there till 1:15. We did all the cleanup, and the woman did not phone IKEA, so we got all 3 of them to work. So there's your indirect,
Hilarious.
there's your metaphor.
There you go. Yeah,
Your
that's a
metaphor
closing
for today.
metaphor.